What is up, YouTube? Today is going to be one of the most highly requested decks that you guys have wanted on my channel, the Zoroark Toolbox Wormadam deck. Now, this is a deck that I think is pretty good, and I've put a good bit of time into trying to make it work. So here is the list that I have ended up on, but obviously I think with a toolbox deck like this, you can play like a million different cards in the deck. Like anything can really make its way in, make its way out, depending on how you feel about the deck and the list, or the direction you want to take with it, or the matchups you want to counter, which is what makes Zoroark such a cool card, and I think it has a lot of potential. So without further ado, let's jump right into it, into this Astral Radiance deck profile. I will have a couple more deck profiles up this week, and then we will jump into metagame discussion, and hopefully some tabletop play when I have some of the boys over, because Milwaukee is coming up. So Zoroark has this very cool ability, Phantom Transformation. Once during your turn, you may choose a Stage 1 Pokemon except any Zoroark from your discard pile, and if you do, discard this Pokemon and all cards attached and choose the new Pokemon into place, which basically means that any Stage 1 in your discard now becomes live. Obviously, you need to have still the energy and everything in your hand, so make sure you don't attach to Zoroark first. So we play a full grip of a 4/4 Zoroark line because, well, we need to get this guy up and running so we can Phantom Transformation into anything into our deck. Now, Zoroark is not just our only primary attacker. We play 2 copies of Burmy, and then 2 copies of each of these 2 Wormadams. We play the Fighting Wormadam because Arceus is such a big problem, and I don't expect people to be playing Dunsparce right now. So I think Matron's Anger, which does 30 plus 10 for each Pokemon in your discard pile, very similar to one of my favorite attacks in the game, Be Revenge and Vengeance, comes in handy. Matron's Anger puts us in a position to one-shot Gengar VMAX, Arceus V-Star. I don't know what else is weak to fighting, but there's probably stuff out there that's weak to fighting. But Wormadam does the job. Now, we're playing Metal Wormadam, and I'm playing 2 because I do firmly believe that things that are weak to Metal will become good. It's specifically Ice Rider. I think Ice Rider Calyrex is going to become very strong, so we want to be able to counter that. So I've decided to design my deck to counter Arceus, Ice Rider, as well as Mew. This new card, Mightyena, is what really makes the deck flow, in my opinion. It has this ability called Hustle Bark. If your opponent has any VMAX in play, this Pokemon's attack costs 3 colorless less, sorry. I guess this can apply in like any situation, that you just get a free 160. But against Mew VMAX specifically, we are one-shotting the Mew VMAX, which will swing the entire game on its head if we can do this early enough in the game. We're going to be able to take out a Meloetta pretty early, probably trade that in for, you know, we can do Wormadam into Meloetta, like Wormadam into Meloetta, something like that in the early game, and then instantly in the mid game when they go into their first VMAX, if we can Mightyena that, the game completely should end on that spot. We're playing 2 copies of Mightyena because I don't really want to prize one against Mew and have to try to figure it out. I hate having to sit there and try to figure it out when I have a card that can already, like, you know, do that for me. We're going to be playing 1 copy of Golisopod, which has Hard Time Slash. This attack does 50 more for each of your 30 plus 50 for each of your opponent's V and GX in play. I guess Darkrai and Samurott have Grass Weakness, but both of them are kind of like, I don't know if they'll ever bench 3 things because I think we need them to have 3 in play. Or I guess we can Choice Belt if they have 2 in play to get the one shot. So maybe it's completely fine, but I just like having Hard Time Slash to just punish over-aggression in decks like Mew, decks like Arceus. Like, anytime anyone overbenches against you, this is just a great attack to kind of punish them. Then we have 1 copy of Electrode that has Explosion. So this single strike Electrode does 120 damage to its opponent and then 90 to itself. So we basically kill ourselves, which is not the greatest. But with a Choice Belt, we are one-shotting Palkia. And all we need to do is swing the game long enough that we can, you know, play the game in our favor to deal with Palkia. So I don't have a really great answer to Palkia, but this is the best one I could come up for at the moment. I don't know if it's actually that good. I've only played a couple games against Palkia, and I went, like, pretty even. But it could just be, like, recency bias on that end. Then we have 1 copy of Galarian Meowth to just kind of ditch cards from our hand. I was thinking about just making this another, like, the baby for Liepard. But it's up in the air right now. I definitely think we could go either way. Our only V Pokemon in the deck is going to be a Lumineon because I don't like sitting there with a brick of a hand. So we need to find ourselves a research to kind of play the game. I have a 1/1 Bibarel line because I think Industrious Incisors will keep filling up our hand, leading us into those Professor's Research and letting us play the game. We have 1 copy of Liepard, which has Trade. Debating putting in a second copy of Liepard, debating just cutting this and making the baby version of Liepard, or cutting the Bidoof and making it the Purloin. Like, I don't know which one of these two lines is more important. I use them very, very much a lot. Like, I use both of these guys a lot. We have one copy of Miltank with Miracle Body. I think Miracle Body is very strong in this format, so I just want to have one copy to kind of throw it in there and buy myself some time while I'm setting up my board. Especially because so many decks in this format don't play those one prizers, or if they do, it's going to take them more than a turn to power them up. So while they're powering that up to deal with your board, you can kind of set up the back end and get to play your board the way you want to. So by the time Miltank is dealt with, then you can have like a Wormadam that does a ton of damage, or you can have you have all the pieces in your discard to play off of. We have the Radiant Hawlucha to give us 30 more damage with Big Match. I don't think any of the other Radiants actually do anything for us. So plus 30 is always just something that cannot be overlooked, and we're going to take that every time. And then finally, the last Pokemon is Manaphy, because I don't want to get absolutely blown out of the water by Radiant Greninja or Urshifu. I'm not actually worried about Urshifu. If I was worried about Urshifu, I'd be playing this card also. This extra sensory wordier, but I'm actually not worried about Urshifu right now. I don't think Urshifu's in a good spot in the metagame. I don't think Urshifu is a deck to be worried about. But again, if I am worried about it, I can tech cards like that Weirdeer back into the deck. Maybe slot out the Golisopod, which is kind of a vanilla card that does something. Maybe slot out the Meowth. Like, I have a lot of space to work with, but also not that much space at the same time. So I can kind of tech the deck in the way that I want to, like I was mentioning to you guys. With 2 copies of Incense, 4 copies of Quake, and 4 copies of Ultra, I have pretty solid consistency across the board. I have 1 copy of Collapsed Stadium to get rid of the fish, and also, I guess, deal with Temple of Sinnoh mostly. I'm really worried about Temple of Sinnoh because I would like have the counter stadium for that, yeah. 1 copy of Pal Pad in my deck, 2 copies of Boss, 1 copy of Grant. Now, I really like Grant, not because this 30 damage actually is relevant. Yes, this 30 damage could be relevant for our Wormadam at any given point, but during your turn, if Grant is in your discard pile, you may discard 2 except for Grant and put Grant back into your hand. So at any given moment, we can go discard 2, put Grant back, which is just a -1 card, but we're getting rid of 2 Pokemon, or we're getting rid of 2 dead cards in our hand, which means we can use an effect of a supporter without using our supporter for the turn, or like without having to use research for the turn. So we can simply start getting more damage for our Wormadam, getting some Pokemon into the discard that we need to be there. So I really, really like Grant in this deck, and I think it definitely belongs. I think there's 4 copies of Research. It's like a staple. And I'm playing 1 copy of Roseanne's backup because I want to reuse my tools a lot. Like, I'm really worried about tool usage because I think tool is very important in this format. Like, the plus 30 from the tool is very, very important from Choice Belt. I think the Pokemon is like negligible here. The Stadium card is really, really important. I think, like, especially if Temple of Sinnoh becomes big, and then the Energy card is also negligible, I think. But also, like, in that slot, I could see myself playing an Ordinary Rod or a Clara to give myself Pokemon recovery if that becomes an issue. Yeah. And we have 1 copy of Air Balloon to pivot some of our guys around. Nobody has Free Retreat, I don't think. Does this guy Free Retreat? No. So nobody has Free Retreat or, like, even cheap retreat cost. So we're going to have to kind of need that balloon at some point. And then we have 2 copies of Choice Belt because it kind of is a bonus on almost all of our guys. And then we have 3 copies of DTE and 4 copies of Twin. 7 energy seems pretty right, especially when we're researching pretty early and trying to get down to the bare bones of our deck. Yeah, I mean, like I said, you can cater some of these tech cards for better matchups as you go. I currently have it catered to deal with Mew, Arceus, Palkia, and Ice Rider because I think those are the 4 biggest problems for me. If you're worried about Urshifu, obviously you can tech for Urshifu. If you're worried about, I don't know, Trevenant VMAX, you could probably tech for Trevenant VMAX. Like, there's so many things you could tech for with this deck, but I hope you guys enjoy my rendition of Zorobox. Obviously, it's not perfect, but yeah, let me know in the comments below what you guys think should be added or what some better techs are. Peace out.